So just for the break, talking a little bit about, lockdowns and, viruses and pandemics and, having to fix the world, right? And this is the whole thing, right? We're doing all this to save everyone. And it's interesting while we're doing this, people are going to the beach over the weekends. Nobody's wearing masks. Everybody, and of course, what does the media do? The media is out reporting on this, saying, look, there's all these people at the beach not wearing masks. Shame on them, right? Public shaming. This is the dichotomy that we're caught in. In order to get the economy up and running, and in order to get people back to work, off the sidelines, back to work, those type of things, then we have to get past this point to where we're instilling fear into people and keeping them from taking activities because of the fear of getting and contracting the virus. We've had pandemics before. This is not a new one. COVID-19 is not a new thing. And so I'm looking up at CNN right now we have a bunch of monitors in our office. CNN's on one of them. And total cases, 1,662,000. Total deaths so far in and this is U.S. Total deaths in the U.S. is 98,223. Okay. We've talked about this on the show before. If you just take a look at the flu, we infect about 30 million. We have about 30 million cases a year of the flu. We generally run somewhere between 65 and 75, 85,000 deaths every year from the flu, right? Generally older people have pre-existing conditions. They die of the flu. We don't really have a vaccine for the flu. Yes, you go get a flu shot that treats about 5 strains of the 100 and some odd strains of flu that we have. And if you happen to get lucky and catch one of those 5 strains, you don't get sick. But even if you get the flu shot, you still potentially wind up getting the flu. So we really don't have a vaccine or a cure for the flu. We have therapeutics, right? You can go get Theraflu. You can treat the symptoms, and you just have to kind of work your way through the flu until you come out on the other side of it. But, this is something right now that people are hoping that we're going to get a vaccine that's going to cure this. We'll have the COVID-19 cure, and it's coming before the end of the year. But yet we're still fighting the flu. I mean, we're still trying to come up with new therapeutics and new treatments and vaccines for the flu. And every year we deal with, 30 million cases of it. Every year we deal with, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 deaths from the flu. But we don't lock down, and I've talked about this before, we don't lock down the economy because of the flu. But yet we've chosen this tack to instill, fear into Americans. You got to wear a mask, got to wear gloves. I went to Kroger's over the weekend to pick up some groceries, and now they're putting up these big plastic barriers between the cashier and the person checking out, right? And you've got to have 6 feet between people in line, right? So they've got little markers on the floor before you have to stand waiting to get in line. We don't do that for the flu. Never did that before, but we're doing it now. So we're changing. So the point is we're changing behaviors. There was a great video online over the weekend of IKEA. Now, you get me. I don't know what's so emergency needing at IKEA, but there was a massive line of people wrapped around this parking lot, and the line was like a 2-hour wait. And so you drive up to the front door, go inside, get what you need, check out, come out, get in the car, leave, and the next person goes in, right? And so this is just, again, people are going to get a table. Or a chair. Not sure why we've got to go to IKEA to do it. We just can't order it and have it delivered. But IKEA is a very important place to be, apparently, over the weekend that you've got to go to and wait in line for. Now, it's not the point that we're doing these things, but this is the result of, kind of this media-driven, socially driven narrative about the virus. And that we've got to cease our activities for our own personal good. We have to do these things. But we don't do it for other things, right? We just do it for this one. And, if we go back and look at, previous pandemics that we've had, we had a massive outbreak of the flu in 1957-58 as an example. Deaths per million at that point were like 662 per million deaths. So 662 deaths per million. But the population size was only half that of the U.S. today. So if you take a deaths per million today, and using data from May the 18th, it's about 252 people per million. If you go back to the pandemic we had during the swine flu, 1918, you had a much higher death rate per million because you had a much smaller population than you have today. Now look, all deaths, period, are bad. Okay. I'm not saying that. What we're talking about though is actions and reactions to events that occur. And when you evaluate the number of cases and the death rate currently of the COVID-19 virus relative to the total population of the United States, as compared to previous outbreaks and viruses that we've had in history, this is a far less destructive virus than even that of the common cold and flu that we get every single year. But we've taken extreme, drastic measures, and we are instilling fear into an economy to control the population to react a certain way that has economic impacts. So everybody's hoping, so the hope is that we'll get a vaccine. And we'll get a vaccine very quickly, and then we can all go back and be normal again. Right? We can all go back out into society. We can all go to the beach. We can all go to bars and restaurants and sporting events. But we can't do that until we actually get a vaccine. Right? This is what's been instilled into us now. Despite the fact that we're reopening the economy and we're telling people they can go out, right? Economy's reopened. Go back out and doing what you're doing. Okay, so Governor Greg Abbott, right here in the great state of Texas, reopens the economy. He says, 25% occupancy. We're going to go up to 50% occupancy by the end of the month, so forth and so on. We get the economy fully reopened. Judge Hidalgo in Houston says, nope, stay-at-home order still in place until June. What are we doing? Are we staying at home or are we going out? We can't even get our government officials to coordinate with this. And at the same time, the media is driving this fear-driven narrative that, oh my gosh, if you go out, you're all going to die. And if you go out without a mask, you're shameful. This all has economic impacts. It slows the rate of economic growth. And the longer that we remain shut down, and the longer that we deter the return of economic activity, the more long-term damage you're going to have to the economy in terms of getting people back to employment, getting people back on payrolls, getting economic activity back to where it needs to be. When we came out of the 2008-2009 financial crisis, the economy was tracking prior to that a long-term economic growth trend of about 6%, going all the way back to the beginning of the century. After the 2008 financial crisis, it stair-stepped down into a lower growth rate than what we had seen previously, and was tracking that previous trend line, but at a lower level. So the economy was growing again, but it was growing at a rate slower than what we had experienced over the previous 110 years. Because of what the activity that we're taking now in both the shutting down of the economy and the massive increases in debt that are occurring because of that, we're now going to stair-step down again that economic growth rate. And the longer that we remain locked down, shut down, instilling fear into individuals and the economy, the longer that process of recovery will take. And the longer the process of recovery takes, the slower the rate of growth will ultimately be. And this is part and parcel because what we're doing today is we're dragging forward, again, future consumption to fill the gap today. And we'll talk about the impacts of that because that was part and parcel of the reason why we had slower economic growth over the last decade. And by doing and repeating the same policy mistakes today, we're only ensuring that we'll have the same type of outcome in the future. We'll talk about that when we come back from the break. Don't go away.
The Real Investment Advice blog. It's required reading for the informed investor. Catch it today at realinvestmentadvice.com.